Leonard Huxley was a man who believed money could fix almost anything. At 45, he had everything. The world could offer a glass mansion on the hill overlooking the city, cars that gleamed like liquid metal, and a name that appeared in business magazines under titles like "The Genius of Real Estate." Yet, behind the sleek smile and tailored suits, he was a man tired of people pretending to care. His wealth drew admirers, not friends, and though he had built an empire, he hadn't built a home. His wife had left him years ago, taking their son with her, and his world had since been run by efficiency, routine and silence, the silence of success. The only sound that ever broke that silence was the gentle clinking of dishes and the faint humming of a woman named Maria. She was his maid, a quiet figure who arrived before sunrise and left long after the last light went out in his office. Maria was in her late 30s, small in stature, but strong in will. She moved around the house with the grace of someone who'd learned to live unseen, never intrusive, never idle. To Leonard, she was just part of the rhythm of his household, as essential and invisible as the ticking clock on his wall. But Maria wasn't invisible to everyone. The gardeners greeted her warmly, the delivery men smiled when she waved, and the neighbors often saw her, stop to hand coins to a homeless man outside the gate. She had that kind of kindness that didn't need an audience. It lived quietly inside her. One rainy Monday morning, Leonard was pacing his marble foyer, frowning at his phone. "Where is the new supplier list?" "It's already 10, he muttered, irritation dripping from every word. Maria passed by with a laundry basket and stopped gently. "Sir, your breakfast is getting cold," she said softly. "I don't have time for breakfast, Maria. Just leave it," he snapped, rubbing his temples. She nodded, lowering her gaze. He sighed, guilt prickling him briefly. "Wait," he said after a pause. "Did you already pay the grocery bills yesterday?" "Yes, sir. I used the cash you left on the counter." He nodded absently. Then his phone rang. His accountant. "Yes, Jonathan, what? My card's frozen again?" "Why?" He stopped mid-sentence, realizing his assistant was out sick. "Ugh, fine, I'll fix it later." He hung up, frustrated. "Maria," he called suddenly, "would you do me a favor? Go to the store and get some essentials. Just use my card this time." Maria froze mid-step. "Your card, sir?" "Yes," he said impatiently, flipping open his black leather wallet and pulling out a sleek platinum credit card. "Just take it. Buy whatever groceries are needed. The staff account is empty and I can't deal with it now." Her hands trembled slightly as she reached out. "Of course, sir," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. As she walked out into the drizzle, Leonard's mind was already elsewhere. Board meetings, profit margins, deadlines. He didn't notice the way Maria looked at the card like it was made of glass, or the way her eyes flickered with both fear and something else. Gratitude. Maria had never held a card like that before. The embossed name, Leonard A. Huxley, seemed to carry the weight of another world. She tucked it deep into her worn purse, heart pounding as she walked to the bus stop. For a long moment, she stared at the city skyline, thinking about the people who lived behind those glittering windows, people who never had to count coins at the grocery store, never had to choose between rice and medicine. Her son's face flashed in her mind. Little Daniel, only 8 years old, bright as sunshine but born into shadows. He was at the children's hospital again, his small body fighting an illness Maria could barely afford to treat. The doctors said he needed a new course of treatment soon, one that cost more than she made in months. Maria sat on the bus, rain streaking the window beside her. She looked at the card again. One swipe could change everything, but she shook her head. "No, that's not right. It's his money. I'll buy only what's needed." She reached the supermarket, her mind made up. She filled her cart with the usual rice, vegetables, cleaning supplies, bread. But as she turned the last aisle, she saw a young boy crying near the counter. His mother was pleading with the cashier. "Please, can't you let me take the milk? My card's declined. My baby hasn't eaten all morning." Maria's chest tightened. She looked at the platinum card in her hand, then at the boy. The line behind her grew impatient. Without thinking, she stepped forward. Add her bill to mine, she said quietly. The woman turned, eyes wide. No, I couldn't. It's fine, Maria said with a soft smile. God bless you. The woman began to cry. Maria signed the receipt with trembling hands. It was a small amount to Mr. Huxley, but to the mother, it was everything. As Maria left the store, she couldn't shake the feeling of guilt mixed with relief. He won't even notice such a small thing, she thought. It's for kindness. He's a good man, even if he doesn't show it. He'd understand. But when she got home, she didn't mention it. Leonard didn't ask. He barely looked up from his laptop. Days passed. Leonard remained buried in business calls while Maria continued her quiet rhythm. But something began to shift. He started noticing little things. The way the house felt warmer. The way Maria occasionally hummed lullabies while dusting. The way his meals were now more thoughtful, as if cooked with care, not obligation. One evening, Leonard came home earlier than usual. He found Maria standing in the backyard, staring at the setting sun. For a moment he saw something in her expression, sorrow mixed with hope. Maria, he said, surprising even himself. You've worked here for how long now? 6 years, sir, she said, turning quickly. That long? He blinked. And I've never really asked, do you have family? Maria hesitated. Just my son, sir. He's not very well. Leonard frowned. I see. I'm sorry to hear that. Thank you, sir, she said softly, then excused herself to set the dinner table. That night, Leonard couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about her tone, the way her voice cracked slightly when she mentioned her son. He'd spent millions on business ventures without blinking, yet somehow that small detail unsettled him. The next morning he noticed Maria's eyes were red from crying. He didn't ask why. But when she left later for her usual errands, something made him glance at the security feed. Her figure disappeared down the driveway, her steps slow, her shoulders heavy. 2 days later, Leonard's accountant called. Mr. Huxley, there's been a charge on your personal card, not from your usual accounts. Leonard frowned. How much? Not a large amount, sir, but... Strange. There's a hospital payment. A hospital? Leonard repeated. Yes, sir, St. Mary's Children's Hospital. Do you want me to dispute it? Leonard froze. St. Mary's. That name echoed from his conversation with Maria. He remembered now. Her son. No, he said slowly. Leave it. He hung up, his heart sinking with realization. She hadn't said anything. She hadn't even asked. And yet, she had used his card, not for herself, but for her child. He sat back in his chair, staring at the city through the glass walls of his office. For the first time in years, the view didn't impress him. He felt something else entirely, shame. He had given her the card without thought, as a convenience. But she had seen it as a miracle. That evening, when Maria returned, she found him waiting in the living room. The silence between them was thick. She froze when she saw the card on the table. Maria, he said quietly, sit down. She hesitated, hands shaking. I'm sorry, sir. I didn't mean to... Just tell me, he interrupted gently. Why? Her eyes filled with tears. My son, sir. The doctor said he needed medicine right away. I thought I'd replace it from my salary in a few months. But then I helped a mother at the store too. I know I had no right. Leonard looked at her for a long moment. She waited for anger, for dismissal, for the sound of her world collapsing. Instead, he sighed, leaning back. You helped someone else too? She nodded, weeping silently. I'm sorry, sir. I'll pay back every rupee. But he shook his head. Don't. You already paid me back, Maria. She looked up, confused. You reminded me what money is supposed to do, he said softly. Help people. Maria sobbed harder, whispering thank yous between breaths. Leonard turned away, hiding the lump in his throat. He hadn't cried in years, but something in that moment cracked him open. Something that no fortune could patch. That night, long after Maria left, Leonard sat in his office staring at the hospital's name on the statement. He searched it online, reading about its struggles. Underfunded, overcrowded, children fighting for survival. He saw pictures, tiny hands hooked to IVs, tired nurses, fading walls. He closed his laptop and whispered, Not anymore. The next morning, Maria arrived to find the house empty, except for a note on the counter. "Maria, take the day off. I have somewhere to be. L. Huxley." She frowned, puzzled. Meanwhile, Leonard's car pulled into the parking lot of St. Mary's Children's Hospital. He walked inside, his heart pounding not from nerves, but something unfamiliar, compassion. The receptionist looked up. "Sir, can I help you?" "Yes," Leonard said. "I'd like to speak to whoever's in charge of this hospital." The halls of St. Mary's Children's Hospital were painted in faded colors, cheerful shades. That time had dimmed. The walls were lined with paper butterflies and hand-drawn rainbows, as if the children inside were trying to convince the building not to crumble. Leonard Huxley walked through them quietly, feeling strangely out of place in his tailored suit. Every step echoed a discomfort he couldn't name. He wasn't here as the millionaire everyone admired, nor as the strict employer Maria feared. He was just a man following a feeling he couldn't ignore. He reached the front desk and asked to see the administrator. A few minutes later, an elderly woman approached. Kind eyes, white hair tied neatly. "I'm Dr. Evelyn Carter, hospital director. You said you wanted to discuss a donation." Leonard hesitated. "Yes, but not just that. I believe one of your patients, Daniel Lopez, is being treated here." She looked surprised. "Ah, yes, little Daniel. He's been under our care for a while now. Sweet boy. Always talks about his mother, says she's his hero." Leonard smiled faintly. "She is." Dr. Carter tilted her head. "You know them?" "She's my maid," Leonard admitted, his tone soft. "Maria Lopez." Dr. Carter's face warmed with recognition. "Oh, Maria. Yes, she's been struggling, but she never complains. Works multiple jobs, pays every bill late but never misses one. Her boy's treatment isn't easy, but she's determined." Leonard felt a lump rise in his throat. "Could I see him?" The doctor nodded. "Of course. But please don't mention money yet. For Maria, dignity means everything." They walked down the corridor to a small room filled with sunlight. Inside, a thin boy lay on a hospital bed, sketching with colored pencils. His eyes lifted as the door opened. "Hi," he said softly. "Are you one of the new doctors?" Leonard smiled gently. "No, not exactly. I'm a friend of your mom's." The boy's face brightened. "Oh, you work with her?" "You could say that," Leonard said, sitting beside him. "What are you drawing?" Daniel showed him a crayon picture, a big house on a hill, a woman standing in front of it, holding hands with a boy. "That's me and Mom," he said proudly. "One day I'm going to buy her a big house like this so she never has to clean other people's houses again." Leonard felt his chest tighten painfully. The boy's innocence hit harder than any boardroom deal ever had. He looked around the room, small, neat, but full of signs of struggle. Second-hand toys, half-used crayons, an oxygen monitor humming quietly. The nurse entered briefly, adjusting Daniel's IV, and whispered to Leonard, "He's one of our fighters, always smiling, even when it hurts." Leonard turned back to Daniel. "You're very brave," he said sincerely. Daniel grinned. "Mom says bravery is when you smile even if you're scared. She smiles all the time, even when I know she's sad." Leonard swallowed hard. "She must love you very much." "She does," Daniel whispered. "She says God will send us an angel one day. Maybe he already did." Leonard blinked rapidly, his throat closing. He stood up quietly and patted the boy's hand. "Rest, champ. I'll come see you again soon." As he walked out, he caught sight of Maria in the hallway, talking to a nurse. Her tired eyes widened when she saw him. "Mr. Huxley," she gasped, nearly dropping the folder in her hands. "Sir, what are you—" "I came to see Daniel," he said calmly. She froze, color draining from her face. "Sir, I can explain—" He shook his head gently. "You don't have to." Tears welled up instantly. "I didn't mean to disobey you. I just didn't know what else to do. He was getting worse and—" Leonard held up a hand. "Maria, stop apologizing." Her words died in her throat. He looked at her for a long moment, her trembling hands, her hollow eyes, her worn clothes. This woman had carried the world on her back and still found the strength to help others. And he, with all his money, hadn't even noticed. "Do you know what broke my heart?" he said finally. She looked confused, wiping her tears. "Sir?" "That card," he said softly. "I gave it to you because I didn't want to deal with a bill. You used it to save a life." She covered her mouth, sobbing. Leonard continued, voice trembling slightly. "I've spent my life buying things that don't matter. Cars, art, property, thinking that's what wealth is for. You spent it on something real." Maria shook her head. "It wasn't my right. It was your heart," he interrupted. "And it's worth more than anything I own." The hallway fell silent. A nurse passed by, glancing at them curiously, but neither noticed. "Maria," Leonard said softly, "if you'll allow me, I'd like to cover Daniel's entire treatment, every cost. And not as charity, as a promise." Her eyes widened in disbelief. "Sir, I can't accept that." "Yes, you can," he said firmly. "Because I owe you. You taught me what kindness looks like." She burst into tears again, her body shaking. "You don't know what this means." "I think I do," Leonard said gently. "You gave your son hope. Let me give you both a future." Over the next few weeks, Leonard became a regular visitor at St. Mary's. The nurses were astonished to see the famous billionaire walking through the halls carrying toy cars and coloring books. He and Daniel bonded quickly. They played chess, told jokes, and made paper airplanes that sometimes landed in other rooms, making the nurses laugh. Maria watched quietly, her heart swelling with gratitude and disbelief. She had spent years serving this man without ever truly knowing him. Now she saw not the cold businessman, but a man rediscovering his soul. One afternoon, Leonard arrived with a folder in hand. "Maria," he said, "I need you to come with me for a moment." She frowned. "Where to, sir?" "You'll see." He drove her through the city, past the neighborhoods she usually only cleaned for. Finally, they stopped in front of a small but beautiful single-story house. White walls, flower boxes, and a small garden. Maria looked at him in confusion. "Sir, whose house is this?" He handed her the keys. "Yours." She shook her head violently. No, I can't." "Maria," he said gently, "it's not a gift. It's a thank you. You've worked for me for 6 years without a single complaint. You've cared for my home better than I ever did. Now I want you to have one of your own." Tears streamed down her cheeks. She fell to her knees, clutching the keys. "You have no idea what you've done for us." Leonard smiled softly. "I think I do." She whispered, "Why are you doing all this?" He looked out at the quiet street, then back at her. "Because once I thought being rich meant never needing anyone. But now I know. Real wealth is being able to change someone's life for the better. You showed me that." Months passed. Daniel's condition improved remarkably under proper treatment. The doctors called it a miracle, but Leonard knew it was something deeper. Love, care, and faith working together. Maria returned to work part-time, but things were different now. The house felt alive. Laughter in the kitchen, warmth in the halls. Leonard found himself inviting people over again, sharing dinners, even volunteering at the hospital once a week. He created a foundation in Daniel's name, the Lopez Hope Fund, dedicated to helping sick children whose parents couldn't afford care. The first donation came from Leonard himself, but soon hundreds of others joined in. Maria became the foundation's coordinator, her strength and humility inspiring everyone she met. One afternoon, months later, Daniel visited Leonard's office. The boy was healthy, smiling ear to ear. He handed Leonard a small drawing. "It's for you," he said shyly. Leonard looked down at the picture. It showed him Maria and Daniel standing together in front of a big house. Above them, Daniel had written in bold, uneven letters, "My family." Leonard's eyes filled with tears. "Thank you, Daniel," he whispered, his voice breaking. The boy grinned. "Mom says you're the angel God sent." Leonard chuckled softly, wiping his eyes. "I think she's wrong, Daniel. I think you and your mom are mine." That night, Leonard stood by his window, watching the city lights flicker like distant stars. For the first time in years, he didn't feel alone. His heart, once armored by wealth, now beat with purpose. He looked at the photograph on his desk. Him, Maria, and Daniel at the hospital's new children's wing, smiling together. He whispered to himself, "You broke my heart, Maria," but only to fix it. Then he smiled, not the polite smile of a businessman, but the genuine, quiet smile of a man who had finally learned the true meaning of giving.